I really didn't have any kind of plan starting out on this project, but a good place to begin is getting rid of anything that won't be used, so all those modified plates had to go. I did want to keep in the life counter and high scores though, so they were moved out of the way for later. Sonic is a platform game, so obviously physical platforms are quite relevant, and this gave me my first big idea. A small, moving platform. I did have to pick out a suitable clear piece to enable the platform to float. Rather than having to think about complex mechanical systems, I thought a better place to start might be something more decorative. There's a bridge over water in the base set, and in the game this cascades down a waterfall. The first step in creating the waterfall was positioning the vertical water flush with the horizontal water, but I quickly realised I would need a larger backplate to mount smaller plates and tiles on. Headlight bricks provided the right spacing for this, but I then wanted the first waterfall to cascade into a second. Initially, I thought that there wasn't enough space for this to sit close to the first, until I spotted that the bridge wasn't properly centred. With the issue resolved and waterfalls roughly in place, it was time for the next big idea. One of the main dangers in Sonic the Hedgehog is those pesky spikes, always eager to rid you of every ring in your possession. I already knew exactly how I would make the spikes, so I just needed a suitable trap in which to set them. I felt a couple of pits with a column between was a suitable choice, but I didn't want to build just a standard block column. The game's terrain features some sculpting, and I wondered whether I could recreate this. My first attempt involved using shorter plates to create a recessed area in the centre of the column. This looked too blocky for my liking. The recesses are more rounded in the game. Slopes could give a more contoured appearance, but this would require building sideways and losing the checkered pattern of the stacked plates. I was also having trouble aligning the vertical slopes with the horizontal slopes. I wanted to stack plates down the centre of the column, but I thought this would be more difficult to achieve if all the surrounding slopes were sideways. And I was right. To connect the slopes sideways and seat them flush with the front of the column, I'd had to seat a plate between the slopes and modified bricks, but this resulted in the front edge of the stacked plates being way out of alignment with the edge of the slopes. A jumper brought the edges closer, but the plates were now sticking out the back of the column. I had wanted to use longer plates to prevent the stacks from twisting, so I'll come back to this problem. Through building sideways, I'd unfortunately lost the checkered pattern. One potential way to reintroduce this would be using 1 stud wide slopes, but the stud width is 2.5 plates tall, so they didn't quite align correctly. Another possibility would be using a set of the stickers used to decorate the loop. For now, let's finish off the column and see what we've got so far. As well as contouring, the game's landscape also features tunnels. While I can't really make the Sonic minifigure roll through a tunnel, I did have a plan to replicate this using a radar dish. I initially tested the spacing with a 4x4 dish, but the curves seemed better suited to a narrower spacing, so I swapped it out for a 3x3. I needed a way of attaching the inverted inner slopes together. Clips and bars are a popular way of inverting parts, and using bricks modified as such looked like a good choice. Testing out whether the checkered pattern could be built into the curves, I found it didn't work so well in some places due to the shaping of parts, but I felt it looked fine filled in with brown. I wanted the Sonic ball to be able to roll through the tunnel, which a single dish wouldn't be much good at. It needed support to keep it upright, so my first addition was a round brick. But the dish would also need to ride some form of guide rail to prevent it shifting sideways, so I added in a connector tube. While designing MOCs with software, it's good practice to physically build structures to test whether they can be built and whether they'll hold together. The clip and bar idea looked like it was going to work, so I just needed to fill in the space around them. To prevent the ball from falling out of the tunnel, I was planning on installing a guide rail. I thought this could be done using the same arches set closer together, but I wasn't sure whether this would give enough space for that connector tube. The plates sticking out the back of the column had been bothering me, so I wanted to do something about it. Using the jumpers with only a single connection point could allow the stacks to twist, spoiling the appearance, so I introduced a 1x4 brick to prevent this from happening. I swapped out the 2x4 plates for 2x6s and seated 1x8s up the edges to tie the slopes together, then surrounded the outside with modified bricks for strength. The modified bricks unfortunately don't come in brown to match the slopes, but they do come in dark orange, which is in keeping with the colour scheme. So I now had a column, but that spike pit needed some work. I copied in some terrain and made some adjustments to set the spikes on it, but it looked unbalanced due to the spacing of the spikes. 3 balanced much better, so I filled in and left it there for now. Another perilous feature of Greenhill Zone is the rotating, spiky log bridge. Only one part really came to mind for this, a 2x2 round brick with pinholes. Sadly, none of the parts I had in mind came in dark orange, so bright orange it is. As this brick doesn't have an axle hole through the top of it, I had to be a little more creative stringing them together, using a tile with stud. This was a comparatively weak connection, but had the benefit of allowing a narrower angle change between spikes. I did wonder whether the bridge could be built with Technic, but I couldn't picture an effective way of doing so. The spikes would either be fixed at 90 degrees or spaced way too far apart. And there were more colour limitations. So I figured round bricks were my best choice. Sure would look nice in dark orange though. Upon re-examining the columns in the game, I noticed that the centre may actually curve outwards, not inwards. Reversing all the slopes on my column really didn't look right, but I think I may have mistaken shadowing in the game for curvature. So I straightened the sides up, flattened the top, and stacked plates all the way down the centre. Looking at this new column, I thought it was looking a little too wide, so I removed a couple of plate stacks from the centre and narrowed it down. The front was looking much better now, but the sides, not so much. I wanted rid of that orange stripe, and it occurred to me that I could replace the modified bricks with narrower versions and stack plates up the outside. I added in a couple of larger bricks and plates to help tie things together. Those ridges created by the tiles were also bothering me. This was a simple fix, using slopes with a cutout to seat the tiles flush. Okay, this is looking... Now, hang on a minute. The columns in the game move up and down, so this needs to be taller. And the checkered pattern should be up the sides too. Now we're talking.